With their bellies full of the finest meatballs in the old bazaar, Ozan and Tariq wandered further into the labyrinth of history. "You look like a wild man, Ozan," Tariq teased, pointing at Ozan's messy travel hair. "Before we deal with the bank again tomorrow, you need a proper trim. I know just the place, Blago's. He doesn't speak a word of Turkish, but his scissors have their own language." They stepped into a small shop that smelled of sandalwood and ancient tobacco. Blago, a man with a mustache so large it seemed to have its own gravity, leapt up from a leather chair. He unleashed a torrent of energetic Macedonian, gesturing wildly for Ozan to sit. Ozan sat, feeling like he was being initiated into a secret society, rather than getting a haircut. As Blago draped a heavy cloth over him, Ozan realized he had a formal dinner later that week. He touched his neck and tried to use the Turkish word for necktie, hoping it was universal. "Cravat?" he asked tentatively, miming the act of tying a tie. Blago froze, his eyes widening. "Krava?" Blago repeated, sounding shocked and then deeply impressed. Blago turned to his young apprentice, Vocal, who was busy sharpening a razor in the corner. A heated, whispering debate broke out between them. Blago pointed at Ozan's neck and then out toward the hills surrounding the city, making a mooing sound. Vocal looked at Ozan, then at his master, scratching his head in total confusion. Before Ozan could clarify, Blago rushed to a shelf and pulled out a faded, framed photograph. He held it inches from Ozan's face. It was a picture of a massive, prize-winning cow standing in a field. "Krava!" Blago shouted triumphantly, giving Ozan a thumbs up. Ozan stared at the cow, realizing that in this part of the world, cravat had been mistaken for krava, the word for cow. Vocal, the apprentice, finally stepped in, realizing the absurdity. He knew a few words of English from online gaming. "He think, you want, buy cow," Vocal said, struggling to hold back a laugh. Ozan shook his head vigorously, still miming the tie. No, for my shirt. A tie. Silk." Vocal blinked, then translated the correction to Blago, who looked visibly disappointed that a livestock deal wasn't on the horizon. Blago let out a booming laugh that shook the mirrors. He patted Ozan's cheek roughly but kindly. He and Vocal shared a quick joke in Macedonian about the Turkish cowman, and the tension evaporated. Blago picked up his scissors, clicking them rhythmically like a percussion instrument, and began to work with newfound vigor and artistic flair. The haircut was a whirlwind of hot towels and a lemon-scented splash that made Ozan's skin tingle. When Blago was finished, he didn't just show Ozan the back of his head. He insisted on showing him the cow photo one last time for good luck. Ozan, now looking sharp and smelling like a citrus grove, couldn't help but laugh along with the old barber. Ozan walked out of the shop to find Tariq leaning against a lamppost, waiting. "So," Tariq said, looking Ozan up and down, "you don't look like a traveler anymore. But why do you smell like a lemon farm and look like you've seen a ghost?" Ozan just shook his head, clutching a small piece of paper Blago had given him, a discount for a local butcher, just in case he changed his mind about the cow. As the sun began to set over the Vardar River, Ozan realized that the language barrier wasn't a wall, but a comedy stage. He hadn't gotten his bank form signed, and he still didn't have a tie, but he had a world-class haircut and a story about a cow that he would tell for the next 50 years. "Tomorrow, the bank," Ozan said. "Today, more tea?"